And we have a student right here, too. I think we should hear from Olivia.
Hi. So I have two questions, and the first one is for Dr. Berry only, and it is, can I stop doing,
this isn't
and it is, can I stop doing my reading now?
You should get extra credit. That chance. That was a quick answer.
Okay, so,
Who wouldn't even want to?
I don't even know. Huh. It's such home fun.
It is home.
Our new chart.
No, but really, one of the quotes in the movie that I liked was that, like, culture needs to revise what's important and what's not. And my question to all of you guys is, how do you think that revision could occur?
I'll start that, and it'll just be real quick. I think one of the pressures that I feel as a teacher is an inheritance, really, from sort of being way back in the scientific revolution, right? That the world is knowable, that you can know it, that having knowledge is preferable, and having very concrete knowledge to be able to say, what are the three branches of government? And if your students can't rattle off the three branches of government, you are not a good teacher. Now, never mind the fact that they've created an hour-long sort of documentary video where they've learned how to work a whole new kind of software, and they've worked in groups, and they've fought, and they've cried, and they've made up, and they've hugged, and now they have this amazing product that they're happy about. They may not be able to say the three branches. Okay, it's not that bad. They know the three branches of government. But there is sort of that anxiety that if you are trying to create a new culture, right, one that isn't necessarily knowledge-based, one that is skill-based, where you can go find the information, but you may not necessarily have it rote memorized. As a teacher, your product is your students, right, walking around. And if our culture continues to value only what we know and not necessarily what we know how to do, think, produce interesting, creative products, etc., then it's really pressureful to sort of try to figure out projects and ways to both get that knowledge base and get them to have the experience and the self-actualization that you're talking about. And it's this very fine balance. I don't have an answer. I strive to do it every day. I don't test. I don't believe in tests, and I don't give them, even in my AP classes. But it's a challenge, because every day I go, I'll ask a question, and there'll be dead silence in the room, and I'll think, oh, God, I'm the worst teacher in the world. So I don't know how you change the culture, Olivia, but it seems to me that we at least have to begin to think about changing our values in terms of what it means to be an intelligent, capable human being. And I don't think it's about how much you know, necessarily.
I'd like to take a stab at that one. I think that, I don't know if we need to reinvent a whole new culture. I think that there are, we used to like being, imaginative and playful people, and, Blue Man Group makes this great school that is like so cool, and who wouldn't want to send their kid to that school? And then, then they get to a certain age and it's like, whoa, I can't send my kid to that kind of school anymore. And so, the adults need to not be so afraid of, what's going to happen, if my kid doesn't do what I did, what my mother did and what my grandfather did, like, what's going to happen if I don't make my kid do these 10 things? Or what'll happen if I let my kid tell me what he or she wants to do? And, I don't have kids, so maybe it's easier said than done. But, when we opened City High School, we had this idea that we were going to we didn't want to be the perpetrators of the madness anymore, and we wanted to have happy, motivated kids that went to high school. Imagine that. And we had friends, the smartest people in the whole world, that sent their kids to Highland Free School and all these cool places. And then as soon as their kids were 11 or 12, it's like, oh no, gotta get on track. And I have friends now who's got their kids on track, and then they smoked a lot of pot in 9th grade, and now they're trying to find their way, and they're looking for a new school because their kids aren't happy. And so I think there's a lot of fear, and I think that like I said before, the people that have the power can say no to that, and that's the adults. The kids are looking at the adults, and they're just doing what we show them. You're listening to us. We're telling you that it needs to be this way, and you believe us because we know what we're talking about. And so adults need to not be so afraid to maybe take some risks in this area.
Olivia, I don't think we're going to get there with tests and standardized tests. One of the things we constantly forget is that everybody learns differently. Every child learns differently. We get to know how they best learn by observing them. It's important to always respect that part of the learning process. I was head of a school in Colorado in the 80s, and in the 80s we saw legions of educators coming over to our schools from Asia, largely Korea and Japan, and they wanted to see what we were doing. They had heard in Colorado that there were neat things going on, exciting things going on. And I would say to them, and they'd come over and they'd want to see my school, which was a very creative-oriented, right-brain learning type of school. And they wanted to know what we were doing, and they wanted to know how we did it. I said, why do you want to know this? Your scores are better than ours. And they said, because you're getting the creativity. Your country is creating things that we want to understand. We want to understand how it's happening. We want to do what you're doing. I'm afraid we're losing it.
I think one thing that we could do, No Child Left Behind is now under review, and there was an article today in the paper that the Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, is saying they want to move away from testing, and I think this is an opening for us now to say, okay, now's the time. We've tried that. It is not working. It's producing a generation of students that maybe don't have the critical thinking skills that we want. It's not encouraging the creativity or the innovation. And I think where we could move is to more project-based learning. And I think when you hear about what really excites kids and what gets them, going and doing the things we want them to do, this is it. There was a really wonderful program today on the Diane Rehm Show, and she interviewed a teacher in California who's the first public school teacher to win the MacArthur Genius Award. And what he's been doing is incorporating robotics into his physics classes and then taking these students to these national robotics competitions. But what they find is, it's not just for, the kids who are super, super scientific. They have engaged them in a number of ways. So there's the kid that does their marketing. There's the kid that, does do the computer work. But they can find different ways to engage all of these students based on what their natural talents are. And so it takes more work, and when Eve was talking about fear-based, I think part of this is just the fear that we are falling behind, and so we want something really super rigid and concrete, which is the testing, which is a known quantity. But what we also know about testing is that it highly correlates with poverty. So it's really not showing us much except for who's rich and who's poor, which doesn't do any good, really, when you come down to it. So I think project-based learning, if we could be courageous enough to adopt that as a style in this country, I think it would have huge dividends.